is Benny Lewis. He's from Fluent in 3 months, and he speaks a lot of languages. So he's going to talk us the tour.
So my name is Benny Lewis. I blog at fluent3months.com. And for people who don't know, I speak 8 languages fluently. I could get by in about 2 others, and I've actually learned another 3 or 4 that I used to be conversational in, but decided not to maintain. So when you hear that, you would obviously think, okay, this guy's just naturally talented, you know? But that's not the story. And my mission in the next, 20 minutes, is to convince all of you that there's no such thing as language talent. Okay? I want everybody here to appreciate the fact that they can definitely learn language quickly. And I know a lot of people go to countries and they may not learn language. So my background is that I actually had trouble with English. I had to go to speech therapy when I was growing up. I could not speak English properly, and I had to learn a lot of things later in life. To this day, my brother still mocks me that my favourite TV show was Star Trek, because I couldn't get that or get it going. And I took German in school. I took it for 5 years, and I eventually made it to Germany, and I couldn't even order a train ticket. So after I graduated, I studied electronic engineering. After I graduated, I was 21 years old, and I moved to Spain. Now, you might be thinking that I had a happy ending, lived in Spain, and learned Spanish, and everything was great. In fact, I lived in Spain for 6 months without learning any Spanish. Spoke English the whole time. I was with other expats, I was with Spanish speakers who wanted to improve their English. I didn't learn anything. And the reason I didn't learn was because of a list of excuses. I was too old to learn a language, because apparently 14 is the cutoff age. I was not naturally talented, because I got a C in my high school German, and that was really, high school German in Ireland it's not very complicated. And I had lived in Spain. I don't have good memory for remembering words, so I'm not naturally talented. I had no time. I was an English teacher, so if I'm speaking English for most of the day, how am I going to learn another language? And on top of that, I mean, how do I just jump into fluent? If I just start speaking to people, I'll be making all these mistakes. They're frustrated. They won't want to listen to me. And how will I express things? I mean, I can't have a debate or whatever. So what's the point in even trying? And of course, I was too shy. I don't know if any of you saw me last night. I was the one wearing the huge hand. And I was kind of going around saying, yeah, Vancouver won. So I'm not too shy. I'm talking in front of all of you as well, so I'm not so shy. But I was very shy initially. I'm from a small town in Ireland with, Catholic upbringing and all that kind of stuff. So very introverted. And this was another excuse. I had all of these excuses for why I could not learn another language. I could not speak another language. Y todo cambió cuando decidí que iba a hablar solo español con todo el mundo. Y un día, el primer día de noviembre de 2003, comencé. Evité hablar todo en inglés. The 1st of April 2003, I decided to stop speaking English entirely. Now, you might, and this leads to a lot of changes in your life. It really does. And I mean, it's not that I decided to start speaking Spanish, it's that I decided to stop speaking English. And this is a huge problem. This is the only problem, as far as I'm concerned, that expat communities all across the world have when that stops them from learning a language. And, for example, I've just come in from Amsterdam, okay? I spent 2 months in Amsterdam. My purpose there was to learn Dutch. But everybody said, you can't learn Dutch, they all speak English. For the full 2 months, I didn't speak any English at all with any Dutch people. It was just maybe at a couchsurfing meeting I might speak English with Dutch people because other English speakers were present. But I only spoke Dutch with them. So the way I did was I just started. The thing is, too many people are giving me all the reasons that they can't do it. The reasons I listed before, about you've got no time, you've got no talent, you don't have the language gene. I mean, come on, are you guys geneticists or something? I hear all this language gene crap all the time. It does not exist. If you speak English, your native language, you have a talent with languages. You can communicate, you can explain yourself. And people say that, well, a baby, it takes maybe 6 years to learn a language, and the best thing is to learn a language like a baby. I looked for a program like that. No way. A baby has so much work ahead of it that you do not have. You do not have to get used to body language. You don't have to get used to pronouncing the letter M. All of these things, when you look at a language, you see why it's hard. You have a list of reasons why this language or that language is hard. And a thing I like to do in my blog is say what languages are easy. I wrote a post, why Hungarian is easy. And Hungarian is apparently one of the hardest languages in the world. So the way I did this is just throw myself in. And you can imagine how this would change your travels so much by speaking the local language. Like I actually got stranded in Italy. This was during when the earthquake was happening a few years ago. I got stranded in Italy. I couldn't leave. And I managed to get a last-minute invitation to the Easter dinner of a friend of mine. And there was 3 generations there, and I could talk to all of them. I could have a conversation with the elderly grandmother that was very weak, and I could ask her things. And I was part of the dinner table, and they were mocking me because I'm vegetarian. They're saying, "You idiot, you're missing all that." And that was great. I really got to contribute to it. I got to talk to an old Czech lady at a bus stop about her experience during World War II. And you can imagine just all of these other little small talk things, the opportunities that you get. You cannot do this entirely through English. English restricts you when you're traveling. It is a bridge. It helps you, especially if you are with the kind of people who would speak it, the university educated, people who work in the tourism board, or young people would generally speak it more. But it is restricting you. You cannot have a full experience. I'm not saying I have a full experience, because as I said, I am a vegetarian, so I'm not big on trying the local food. I don't drink either. I know I'm Irish, yes. But I don't drink. So it's not about for me it's not about what I throw down my throat, it's what comes out of my mouth. This is how I define my travels. All of my friends in the last 7 years have been locals. I have spoken almost no English in the last 7 years. I'm in North America, so I'm speaking English. But I generally do not speak English. And everything changes with that. So I know you're all kind of wondering that, it can't be that easy. Just turn off English and then suddenly you start speaking. So I really want to try to give you practical tips to make this possible for you, okay? So the first thing you got to do is announce it to everybody. So you might, as I said initially, I have a blog, fluentin3months.com. I'm living off the blog now, but actually the reason I started the blog was because everyone kept asking me how to learn languages, so I wanted to share with them my tips. But it wasn't just that. It was because I was announcing to the world that I wanted to learn that language. So I was aiming initially for a fluent Czech in 3 months. In the end, I didn't maintain my Czech, but the fact that I promised so many people around the world, I want to learn Czech, it was that public promise that forced me. Because too many people say to themselves when they make some resolution, I want to learn Spanish. And that's not going to help. You gotta announce it to the world, and you gotta tell everybody what you're aiming for. Because speak Spanish is a ridiculous thing to aim for. Because you can speak Spanish right now if you just spit a few Spanish words at me. You have to define it. So I say fluent, and I go ahead and actually say what fluency means to me. It means I can do everything in that language. I could, I don't know, give this talk in that language, or I can have a full social life, I can have a girlfriend in the language, whatever it is. Everything I do would be in that language. So, what to start with? For example, I just come from Amsterdam, but on Thursday, I'm moving to Istanbul, and I plan to speak only in Turkish for 2 months. Now there's a little problem. I don't know how to say hello in Turkish. I don't know how to say please. I don't know how to say where's the bathroom. Right now, I have 0 Turkish. And yet I plan to speak no English in Istanbul. So hopefully I can explain what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to start with a Lonely Planet phrasebook. Okay? These cost whatever, $5, $8, I don't know. A Lonely Planet phrasebook or whatever. Berlitz also do them. I'm a big fan of phrase books because phrases are things you can use immediately. And the phrase books are pretty well designed to give you the essentials. But how do you learn all the phrases? So I had this pretty cool technique of just singing the phrases to myself. So let's say you're trying to learn Italian, and you got the phrase, you want to learn where is the bathroom. And it's written in the phrase book, dove si trova il gabinetto. And you're looking at that, and how do I remember that? And for phrases, if you can put a little music into it, it'll be a chime that you'll remember. This is how you remember lyrics of songs better, and how I recommend you do it anyway if you're learning another language. I would take a chime off the Big Ben, and I'd actually put it into that, for example, and I'd put it into that phrase. So I would rephrase that in my head, and I'd say, dove si trova il gabinetto. And I repeat that a couple of times, and you'd be surprised how easy it is to remember that phrase after you've sung it to yourself. So start with phrases, and that's all I'm going to need when I arrive in Istanbul. I'm going to have a list of things I need to say. I'm going to get in a taxi. I'm going to give them the address. I'm going to say, how are you? I'm going to do these things. I'm going to learn all of those phrases on the flight over. I mean, I'll be busy with all you guys the next couple of days, so my Turkish starts the day before I fly to Istanbul. I'm going to learn all of those phrases. That's the first thing. The next thing you got to realize is the reason I've been so successful in languages is kind of counterintuitive, something I brag about. I am an imperfectionist. Damn well. Perfectionists are terrible language learners. If you're so focused on making sure you have exactly the right word, with exactly the right grammar, you are not going to speak the language ever. Because you can never speak a language at 100%. You'll always have some subtle words you don't know. You'll always mess up the grammar a little bit. So the reason I'm so successful is because I just start speaking. I speak wrong. I know I'm speaking wrong. I have a goal to make at least 500 mistakes per day. If I haven't reached that goal, there's something I'm doing wrong. And too many people kind of feel that you have to jump. You have to start, and then, you're not allowed to speak with a native unless what you're saying is perfect. It doesn't work like that. Everywhere I've been in the world, the little that I've tried, and I'm sure all of you know, if you've learned a few phrases and you try that out, they love it. They think it's great that an English speaker is learning their language, with the exception of Paris. That's the only place, it's the only place that they were mean to me for trying. But not the French. I love the French. In the south of France, they were very, very nice to me. But everywhere else I've been, they were so helpful. They would patiently listen to you, they'll give you feedback, and they'll understand you. So don't worry about making mistakes. Making mistakes is part of it. You cannot avoid making mistakes. So I really recommend that. And otherwise, for learning vocabulary, I like to use a bit of image association. So, like, let's say you're learning the Spanish word for beach. Playa. When I saw that word the first time, it kind of sounded to me like player, and I just imagined this Johnny Bravo image. I don't know if any of you know Johnny Bravo. This cartoon character, this really cheesy guy that's like chatting up girls. So I imagined Johnny Bravo walking on the beach, thinking he's the man, and trying to pick up all these girls. And I have that image I replayed it in my mind, and whenever I hear playa, I think player, and the player is on the beach. And when I want to say, and the thing is, you have to make it two-way. When I want to say the word beach, who's on the beach? It was Johnny Bravo, he's a player, so it's playa. And you only have to do this for the first 2 or 3 times. You do not, when you're speaking the language, you don't have to constantly analyze in your head, oh no, what was that word again? If you do it twice, you use that image association technique twice, the word will be burned into your head. And you will know that playa means beach forever. So try to do that with as many words as you can. It seems like a slow process because you need to imagine the story and whatever. But your imagination abilities that you had when you were younger, when you were a child, these come back to you. You start to create these interesting stories in your head and you're able to reproduce them again in future. So really, really try with that. Okay, and then, now, so you've got your basic words, you've got some phrases, and maybe you're putting the words into the phrases to try and construct your own things, which would be wrong. I mean, you could have the preposition in the wrong place and all that kind of stuff, but you're starting. And you've got to think about what you're saying. Now, you might find in Northern European countries, people whose level of English will be better than yours might switch over to English. And that's a big challenge that people told me that they have in a lot of places. That they will, they'll just speak English to you because it's easier. And I was told this would happen in Amsterdam. And I actually found in Amsterdam that I was able to speak Dutch with everybody because I did it with confidence. The reason that they would speak English to you is because they're trying to help you. They kind of see that you're struggling, and if you're like, where is the, what's that word again? If you speak like that, they will speak English to you. It's helping you. They're trying to be nice. So I just blurt out whatever I want to say, with full confidence. And one of my idols in language learning is actually he's not a linguist. He's not famous for languages. It's Jack Sparrow. I love Jack Sparrow, and I speak foreign languages like Jack Sparrow would. So if I forget the word for what example is going to use? If I forget the word for supermarket, okay, and I want to say in French, I want to go to the supermarket. I could do the awkward moving thing, or I could do. I'll show you what I might do. I'd say, je veux aller au supermarché. And that's a dramatic pause. And that pause is actually the time I'm thinking to myself, what's that word again? What an S, But if I show outside that I'm struggling, then the other person will feel awkward. So really try and just throw it out there. And I love Jack Sparrow. I always do these dramatic things. And putting personality into it makes it so much more interesting. You can be talking about something tedious, like where's the whatever, but people are interested in helping you because they see that your personality is coming through. So this has been very effective for me. And context helps a lot. Context is your biggest help in the world. When you start a language, you're under the impression that there's 2 million words or whatever it is that you don't know. And that's just looking at it as far as I'm concerned academically. There's everything you don't know. And context is so helpful. So for example, when I was in Berlin, I just bought a SIM card and I realized I didn't have any data access on it. So I went back to the store and I was like, very bad German. The internet, and I was struggling, and he understood, because I got my point across, but then he explained, he said, blah, 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 blah. So I understood one word, because it sounds like data network. But from that one word, I understood everything else he said, because of the context. We were looking at my iPhone, and I remembered, because it was in like cellular data network, is actually a setting that I know is in my iPhone. So I knew to get to that, I had to click settings, and then this, and then that, and everything else he said were all of those words. And I was just extrapolating to find out, how we got to that. So context helps you so much. Read body language in people. You can understand. I know there's examples of, this is a curse, or this is a curse, or this is a curse in some countries. You can give me examples, but most of the time, 99% of body language around the world is the same. And when I was in India, I wasn't actually learning any of the local languages, but I actually made dozens of friends on a train ride who didn't speak any English, because I was kind of communicating with body language. It's very, very effective in what you can do. So another one people always tell me is they're too shy, because you've got to go up to people. And this is what I keep saying, you've got to use the language from day one. Like the best time to start is now. If you're not traveling right now, one of my favorite things to use is couch surfing. But not couch surfing to sleep on other couches, but to actually, couch surfing is an excellent social network that you can search per language. So if you search your city, search Vancouver, Portland, whatever it is, for French speakers, you see a lot of them. And you can just contact them and say, hey, do you want to have a coffee? Let's meet up. So I love couch surfing. I've hosted over 2,000 couch surfers in the last 5 years, I think it is. Because I would move to a country and I would live there. And people would always ask me, how do you maintain your languages? I mean, you learn all these languages, you're going to forget them. But living in Rio, in Brazil, I was working on my Portuguese. But I hosted a lady from France. I hosted a couple from Italy. And I showed them around Rio. I showed them around Rio in their language. And in Amsterdam, same thing, I was hosting as many people as I could. So couchsurfing as a host and as just looking through the network and going to the meetups is great. Another one I like is meetup.com. They have specific language groups, depending on the city, usually only in North America. But couchsurfing is generally good for international things. And then if you're in one of these situations where you see somebody and an opportunity to speak the language, you might start thinking to yourself, oh man, what do I say? How do I say that the right way? And I tell people, the most important thing to think about before you speak any language is nothing. Nothing. You clear your head and you just charge in. I was at a party in Berlin. I met a German girl, and she was kind of struggling with her English. She wanted to practice. She saw some people over there, and I was practicing with my German. She appreciated that, and she said, you know, was mache ich? Ich will mit Ihnen sprechen, aber ich bin langweilig. Ich bin scheu. And I said, no, you're not shy. You're not boring. You just go up and talk to them. And she was just struggling, and I said, oh, I know. I'll show you a trick of mine. It's called the glass clinking trick. And she's like, was soll das sein? And I said, okay, check this out. She was holding a glass of beer, and I said, okay, come with me. I brought her over to the people she wanted to talk to, and I clinked her beer with theirs, and I ran away. That's my glass clinking trick, copyright. And that worked because she stopped thinking. She wasn't saying, oh, what do I say? My level isn't good enough. She didn't have a chance. It was just thrown at her. She was in front of a native speaker. She had to use the language. So I really recommend you just stop thinking about it. And this is why I think this is the only thing that's been the source of why I do so well. It's not because I'm so smart that I have 10 million things going on in my head. It's because I've got nothing going on in my head. I just see an opportunity and I go for it. I don't give myself reasons why the person might not like me because my level isn't good enough. I haven't studied the subjunctive future case. I stop thinking about that. Just throw yourself in and use the language. There are so many opportunities. Like before you travel and while you travel. You see people, hey, I'm from this, I'm doing that. Always hit them with the language. And one thing I find that really, really helps to keep them speaking the language with you is your accent. The accent, I feel, is way more important than grammar. With grammar, grammar is very important. Grammar is important for perfecting your language skills, so you're speaking properly. And because of that, you should avoid grammar entirely for your first stages of learning a language. When I go to Istanbul, I'm not interested in grammar. I spend about 1 month perfecting, getting into the flow, speaking not so great, and then I'll go back to a grammar book, and it'll be interesting. I've read grammar books as if they were novels, with wow, is that why they do that? That's amazing. It's like fitting pieces of the puzzle. So I really like grammar, but only when the language exists in my head. When I was learning German in school, all I was given was der, die, das tables, and it was boring. It was just like a mathematical equation. It wasn't invested in it. But grammar brings your language together. But on top of that, as I was saying, the pronunciation is another thing you've got to start with. So people always tell me with a lot of the Latin languages and things like that, they can't roll their R's. They can't get that board thing. And I think the R is important. Their R, sorry, we say R. Like pirates, but we say or. So the letter or. To get that, a lot of people don't realize that they can actually approximate it very, very well without even trying, if you think about it. If you want to say the Spanish word, pero, you might say, pero. It's actually easier than that. If you think of the word butter, is spread, that sound that you've got, a T sound, it's not actually a T sound, it's something happening at the top of your mouth. If you use that sound as your rolled R, you would actually pretty much extinguish the vast majority of what gives you an English accent. And this is why a lot of people didn't speak English with me in Amsterdam, because they didn't know where I was from. They thought, they knew I was foreign, but I could have been from Iceland or Italy, they didn't know, because I didn't speak with the English R sound. So think of butter, and get that butter, and change to a P, putter, and then pero. It's very close. It's not exactly the same sound, but it's very close. So really give that a whirl. And then how do I not mix up the languages? Then I learn a bunch of them. They're very similar. The languages I speak would be English, Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese. So this group is very similar. Then I got German, Irish Gaelic, Esperanto, which is an invented language. But a lot of people speak it. I spent 6 weeks of my life just speaking Esperanto. And I actually recommend Esperanto for anybody who really wants to get into learning you're focused on whatever, Italian. Esperanto is the easiest language in the world, so if you spend just 2 weeks on it, that's it. Don't make it a huge investment. Spend 2 weeks on Esperanto, and you learn it so quickly that you can find a community of people you can Skype and chat to on our website called Learnu, LEORNU.net. You can find people there and speak the language, you get the flow, and then when you do go to Italian or whatever it may be, that will actually be your second foreign language. And you get to become multilingual, instead of bilingual, you're multilingual. And it's great because a lot of people can use this easy language as a passageway to a harder language. And then just a quick list of some resources I like. For flashcards, I'm a big fan of an app on my Android or on iPhones called Anki, A-N-K-I. You can also install it on your laptop or on your computer. And on your computer you can select pre-made decks for pretty much every language, and you can download that then via the program onto your phone. So you get a flashcard up, but it uses spaced repetition to give you the words when you would need them, just before you would forget them. So I like that. Couchsurfing, great. There's websites like Live Mocha, which has a terrible course. I hate the course. It's the worst course in the world. But if you go to Live Mocha, it also has one of the biggest communities. It's got a lot of people from all around the world, and you will actually be able to connect with them. So for that, I think Live Mocha is great because it's a great community. And you try to find Skype partners. It is if you can't travel. If you can't travel, then stop with your excuses. Stop. Just speak the language with these people. I still have a couple of minutes, I think, so I would like just take any questions from people. I'm sure there's many things I've left out. So, yes?
Just curious, when are you going to learn an Oriental language? Because I understand they're supposed to be very difficult.
Yeah, okay, so this year I learned Tagalog, which is from the Philippines. I've learned a lot of languages I've decided not to maintain. And the Oriental languages have other challenges, and they have the things that are easier. So I really, I don't think of the difficulties. I learned Hungarian, which is apparently the hardest language in the world, but I actually found reasons why it's easy. So with Chinese, I don't know any Chinese yet, but I did learn some Thai. And in one weekend, I actually learned enough Thai to make a 4-minute long video, it's on YouTube, of me haggling prices in a market, buying food. I mean, it's not conversation. I tailor-learned what I wanted to say. But the thing is, as I said, I don't think about these things too much. I don't think about why Thai was hard. I just thought, okay, here's Thai, I learned these words, and I'll say them. So yes, you can give me a list of reasons why they're hard. And I will next year, I'll be taking on more Oriental languages. Although Turkish is not a European language, it's very, very different. So that's pretty much similar challenges.
Okay, you want to do 2 more questions?
Yeah, 2 more questions.
Andrew, you can go all the way back.
I just want to hear some Esperanto.
Do mi lernis Esperanton, kiam mi estis en Slovakio, kaj mi prenis 2 semajnojn, unu semajno, kaj mi estis kun homoj de la tuta mondo. Esperanto havas vortojn kiu venas de la angla, de la hispana, de la franca, do mi povis lerni plu rapide, sed vi ankaŭ povas lerni en 2 semajnoj.
Okay. Anybody else? Any question? This is the last question. We can't hear you. It's the last question.
Just before the last question, someone was asking me before was about accents, like how you really get in your accent. When I was living in Brazil, I found an excellent way to reduce my accent so much was to actually get singing lessons. So, as a music teacher is so much better than a language teacher to train you on your musicality or your lip position. E agora, quando falo português, é português mesmo do Rio. E isso tem sotaque bem diferente. So you gotta really get it to, you're going up and down all the time. And these are things that I've seen other people do. I mean, I've got the blog, so people kind of see it as unique, but I meet a lot of people who kick my ass in languages. They do it better than me, faster than me, but I'm hoping that I can help you guys, and you're welcome to ask me more questions, and you're welcome to follow my blog, fluent3months.com, to see how I deal with Turkish. I'll be sharing all of that. But yes, last question.
Yes. In my own attempt to learn Spanish, I followed some of your advice and gotten to the point where I can say pretty much whatever I need to say. I guess my problem right now is understanding natives at their normal speed, as far as understanding, TV, radio, etc. Do you have any advice how to kind of push through that level?
It's jumping in the deep end. For every language, I go straight to a bar or party, and I am exposed to so many people who are shouting, or it's a noisy environment, and it's just constant exposure. I mean, I'm all about rapid language learning, but really, everybody knows the more time you put into it, the better you're going to get out of it. So focus on what your issue is. If your issue is understanding when people speak, then listen to a lot of stuff. Get podcasts. You can download podcasts very, very easily. You can listen to news and kind of follow with subtitles, because with Spanish from Spain, for example, they speak very fast. So I actually started watching The Simpsons, because I had seen all the episodes of The Simpsons in English, so I didn't need subtitles. And I kind of try and follow what they say, and I got from that, passively. I'm all about speaking from day one, but that's because my priority is to speak well. My advice doesn't work so well if you want to pass an exam, because an exam is like the academic about, you win, you lose, you fail, you pass. But just remember, that's not the way it is in the real world. So try and understand a lot, and then the context helps. Remember, if you don't understand the whole sentence, remember what I said about the German thing, you understand one or two words and you extrapolate from that. And you'd be surprised how much you can extrapolate. And with time, you start to understand more and more words, and the pieces of the puzzle get bigger. But there's no transition from not speaking to speaking like a native or speaking fluently. You dive in, you sprinkle a few words, and before you know it, you're speaking with a conversational level.
Thank you so much, buddy. That was awesome. Not gonna help. All right, well,
What language is
universal
that?
language. Universal language.